Josh Baumgartner with the Greater Tampa Chamber of Commerce. I want to welcome the viewers for tuning in to our candidate interviews in 2019 for City Council. At the Chamber, we focus on policy, not politics, and while we do not endorse candidates, we feel it's important to make sure that we've got candidates in front of our members in the business community to hear where they stand on important business issues. And this morning, we're excited to have Nick Glover. He's running for City Council, District 3. Thanks for joining us today, Nick.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So we're just under 6 weeks from Election Day. And now that we're in this final stretch, what message are you trying to deliver to voters before they head to the polls?
Absolutely. So, for us, it's more about, sort of the systems approach to thinking that this campaign really has been about. My background has been in problem solving in business. I've spent years at the NASDAQ stock market at American Express and now in the energy business. And I know how to solve problems. I know how to work with large budgets, and I know how to bring people together and form partnerships that are truly win-win. So that's the message that we're trying to get out. Great.
So we're going to get into some of our business questions now. I want to talk about workforce housing. We hear it from the community that there's a growing, some call it a crisis, certainly a need for workforce housing in the city of Tampa. What zoning or policy changes do you see as an opportunity to address this need?
Well, there are a variety of things that we can do, but the first thing that you have to do is have an open-mindedness and being able to bring folks to the table, developers, neighborhoods, individuals who are stakeholders in this process. We all want to see Tampa succeed. One of the very low-lying ways that we can do that immediately is by rolling back some of the zoning and ordinances as it relates to garage apartment housing. That is a wonderful way for us to increase property values for homeowners while allowing for new families, young families, millennials to enter into a very nice house within the city's core. That's a really low-lying level example of what we can do right away.
Great. We'll talk about the budget a little bit. Some would argue that the budget is the biggest responsibility for City Council. We're hearing from some state economists and budget makers that there's potentially going to be a dip in the economy that will happen under your term on City Council. How would you address the budget in a downturn in the economy? Where would you see some opportunities for potential cuts? Would there be a look at a tax increase? How would you balance that?
Sure. So I don't want to talk about hypotheticals just yet, right? But I think a city's budget, much like your budget or my budget, reflects our priorities. And so for me, our church giving is important. No matter what happens in the economy that affects this household, that would not change for us. And so likewise, I would expect things like, services offerings. When you're a taxpayer, you are expecting some ROI for the taxes that you're paying. And those essential services, first responders, would not be impacted whatsoever because that's a sacred obligation that a city has to its taxpayers. So I would look for other ways to look at priorities, but certainly, like I said, there are certain things that are not up for negotiation.
Great. Permitting process. We've heard from some members and some folks in the community that there's been some issues with permitting, and we want to make sure that obviously that we have a safe permitting process, but also an efficient one for our businesses and residents. How would you balance that to make sure that the permitting process is working for everyone in the city?
So it's really tough, right? So I've been on the stump for the last few months or so, and I tell everyone that'll listen that Tampa is paradise. It really is. So we have a very difficult job. Whoever is fortunate enough to be our next mayor and whoever is fortunate enough to lead in this seat as well as the others, it's a tough job. We have to figure out how to make paradise even better. So for me, we know the stats, right? Florida is the third largest state now, surpassing even New York. Tampa Bay, fourth largest region by growth in the country, right? The secret is out. So we have some growing pains. And so you're exactly right. We have to make sure that while we're growing quickly and efficiently, we maintain that quality that people have come to expect and love about the city. And so for me, I want to see technology be even more an engine for that permitting success and speed, while still allowing us to make sure that we're committed to looking at dotting the I's and crossing the T's.
Absolutely. Home rule. So we've heard from local governments across the state that there's some concern that there's a Tallahassee knows best mentality coming from the state legislature. Do you agree that that's the case and that preemption is indeed a problem? If so, how would you work as a city councilman to build some relationships with our state legislature to make sure that we're all moving in the same direction?
I do see that trend. Unfortunately, it's a trend that's going about around the country. I think we do have an advantage in Tampa Bay, specifically in Tampa, which is that we have some really strong leaders in our legislative delegation in Hillsborough County. I look forward to working with them, making sure that the initiatives for the city of Tampa and priorities are heard, and not just heard, but they understand how that plays into the broader success of the state of Florida. Tampa is one of the most diverse cities by industry in the state. And we can ill afford to allow that home rule to slip through our fingers. So it's really important to me. We used to have a situation in which city government, county government, and our legislative delegations met on a regular basis. That sort of has slipped down the priority list in terms of things that we do on a consistent basis. I'd like to see us revisit that so we can make sure that instead of speaking through memorandums when things are not necessarily working that well, we can keep that balance and keep that relationship going so that everyone is focused on what we need to be focused on.
Great. Economic development. So utilization of P3s, public-private partnerships, are critical and should be an asset for local governments anywhere. What opportunities do you see for P3s in the city of Tampa?
There are many. So this campaign for us is about, unfortunately, the same issues that we've been talking about cycle after cycle after cycle. The same three issues, we know what they are. We can count them on 3 fingers: transportation, housing, and education. And so, you can't talk about the growth of this city without talking about transportation. There are many opportunities for P3s with that issue. Things as, large as CSX track usage for us on either side of the downtown corridor. In housing, obviously, we have great developers in the city. I'd love to see us come up with ways to work together in business and in government with the shared focus of moving the city forward. And then, I say this all the time, that education has to be an underlying priority for everyone on this council, because there is an impact. If we're able to get transportation right and connect individuals to centers of commerce throughout the city, and are able to make sure the housing is efficient, that people don't get priced out of the neighborhoods they grew up in, there's a trickle-down effect and impact to education. So we know that when homes are stable and our kids can focus, we know they can succeed. So those are the ways that I think we can really utilize P3s moving forward.
Right, and I'm going to stick on transportation for a little bit. Obviously, a chamber-supported transportation referendum passed in November. There's a new revenue stream, and everyone's got their list of transportation projects that they would like to see come to fruition. However, I'd like to hear from you. What's the one most important project as it relates to transportation that you would like to see implemented as soon as possible?
The one, wow, that's hard. I think for me, I'll give you an idea. It's not necessarily a project. It's the way that we think about our ability to be successful. I think the one thing I really want to harp on is integration. Integration between HART, integration with the city, integration with our regional partners. And that's the idea I think we have to make sure that we keep in mind when we talk about lessening the backlog of projects that already exist and thinking about what's ahead of us.
Great. Leadership. So in your opinion, what's the role of a city councilman, city councilwoman, and how does that role, or how will that role evolve for you if elected over the course of your term?
There's this idea that we have a strong mayor system, which implies that we have a weak council. And I'm unwilling to accept that. I think, strength is with being proactive, right? So I hear a lot of times that this is not in the purview of council. I know the city charter very well. I know the parameters in which we have to operate. I just mentioned education, for example. That's the way that you have to approach your position on council, is by partnering with the mayor, pushing forward the priorities of the city, but being unafraid to take positions that move us forward in a bold way. That's the only thing that we're missing. People say all the time that Tampa is an up-and-coming city. I reject that. I think we have up and come. The only thing standing in our way is fearless leadership. Just the courage to lead, take bold issues, look to partner with various folks in and around our region and get things moving forward.
Great. So we've touched on several policy issues. Is there something that's a priority for you in your campaign that we haven't touched on that you want to let our viewers know about, or is there an area that you would like to reemphasize that's your priority in this campaign?
Absolutely. So, we spend a lot of time as candidates talking about policy and not enough time talking about people, right? So it's about the priorities of making sure we have a strong downtown core because that is ultimately the engine of the city, but it's also about the neighborhoods. And one of the great things about Tampa is it's a storied history. I told you it's one of the greatest stories ever told. And it's one of the greatest stories ever told because we have so many players in various neighborhoods who add to that fabric. And so for me, it's really important that while we grow and expand from the inside out, we respect the dignity, the history of each one of our individual unique neighborhoods. And so we're really trying to build a platform for progress, but also making sure that every single neighborhood feels like they're bought into the success and ultimately sharing the prosperity of the growth of the city.
Great. So let our viewers know and chamber members where they can go to learn more about your campaign and Nick Glover.
Absolutely. Very simple. VoteNicholasGlover.com is our website. And from there, you can figure out where our social media platforms are. We have a Facebook that's really robust. We have just under 5,000 folks who are following this campaign, who are interested in hearing a message of vision, of hope, of optimism, who really, have really given us wonderful ideas. So our campaign really is a mirror of what we've heard over the last few months, rather than something that I want to push out to the city. So I'm very much looking forward to interacting with chamber members as well as the broader city.
Great. Well, Nick, on behalf of our 1,400 members and our board of directors, we want to thank you for joining us and thanks for your willingness to serve in an elected capacity.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks.